So I thought because I talk about the issues related to like fast food mega chains and other restaurant chains quite a bit that I should actually do a ranking video because I've noticed a lot of channels have these on YouTube. And one thing I want to preface this by saying it's always better to support local restaurants where you can, especially like really good local restaurants. But that being said, I think the value to these videos is that these chains are everywhere. So it's like, I guess it's good as a reference to know which ones are better and which ones are shit. But that being said, I think as a general rule, it's better to support local restaurants, especially like really good quality ones. Like I think they just add more to the community in terms of a sense of uniqueness and character and local charm. But that being said, it is true that not all of the mega chains are created equal. Some are worse than others. Now that said, I've been looking at a lot of the rankings that other people have on YouTube. I'm pretty shocked to see that McDonald's is very high on a lot of them because I don't see, like, even from somebody like, as far as fast food goes, I don't think they're that great. But I'll get into more of that as I go into the rankings. But yeah, that's the one thing that shocks me the most about the other rankings I've seen on YouTube. Otherwise, I think some of the rankings are generally somewhat consistent with mine, but yeah. Now I'm going to be ranking them in terms of how tasty they are, like how good the food tastes. I'm actually going to do two separate rankings. The first will be in terms of taste strictly, and the second will be in terms of just my overall opinion of them as a company and also just what they represent. So how evil they are is basically going to be the second ranking. So for the first ranking, it's strictly taste, so it doesn't take into account anything else, not health, not how evil they are, not anything else. So just strictly how good does it taste. So for S tier, I'm going to have In-N-Out Burger. I think it tastes really good. Like it, as far as like fast food burgers go, like they do it, like it has a fast food kind of taste, but in a really good way. And I think they do that kind of thing like better than anyone else. It does taste really fucking good. So In-N-Out is S tier, and it is consistent from one location to another. So yeah, Culver's I'm also putting as S tier, similar to In-N-Out. And same with Freddy's. Again, like I would say all three of those have a similar level of quality and consistency. Also Fat Burger. Okay, so all four of those I'm putting in S tier because I think they all do good burgers and they're all consistent with it. I'm also putting Shake Shack in S tier for the same reason, but with the caveat that I've heard that, like, when I look at ratings, as they've expanded more lately, apparently the quality in Shake Shack has gone downhill at some locations because they've just expanded too aggressively and too fast, and thus the quality control has diminished. That being said, I haven't experienced that personally because I haven't gone to any of those new locations. Like, I've only eaten Shake Shack in places that are considered like their heartland, which is like Washington, D.C., New York City, etc., like, which is where they started out. So I'm not as familiar with like what Shake Shack tastes like in the newer locations, but from what I've heard, like from Google reviews on, like the reviews on Google Maps, it seems like they've committed the classic mistake that so many restaurants do, where they, well, a mistake, let me put it this way, it's a mistake from a quality perspective, not necessarily from a financial perspective, but the mistake of expanding too aggressively, too fast, and sacrificing quality for the sake of quantity. But that being said, I haven't been to any of those locations yet, so from my experience, Shake Shack is S tier, but overall, it might actually be more like A tier for that reason. Similarly, I'm gonna put Chipotle as S tier because it does taste really good, and I've found it consistent at the different locations I've been to. However, I've heard that it's not, from the different reviews I've seen online, that some locations are worse than others. But every time I've had it, it's tasted amazing. So yeah, Chipotle S tier does taste really good. I'm also gonna put Popeyes as S tier. I think their chicken tastes amazing, and their chicken sandwiches, and yeah, pretty consistent across the different locations. A tier, I'm gonna have Five Guys. Now, Five Guys at one point would have been S tier because their burgers were amazing. I think they still are at some locations, but like what's happened with Shake Shack, I think they expanded too aggressively too fast, and the quality control across different locations has diminished. And unlike Shake Shack, where I've only had S tier experiences personally, I have been to some Five Guys locations that are not quite as good. And again, it's more recently. Like up until a certain point, Five Guys was totally S tier in terms of my experiences. But more recently, like again, I haven't had it for a while because past a certain point, once I've had something enough times, I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna have it more because I want to support local businesses and I don't want to keep going to the same fucking chains over and over. But I will say, yeah, some of the last few times I had Five Guys, which were some years ago, I do think the quality had become more inconsistent at that point. So I'm putting it in A tier for that reason. Church's chicken, I've had only once. I thought it was pretty good. Not quite as good as Popeyes, but it's pretty similar to Popeyes. And yeah, pretty delicious. So I put Church's chicken in A tier. Okay, now on to B tier. Freshie. Now Freshie's a Canadian chain, and as you're gonna see in the next list, it's gonna feature quite differently on that one, but just taste by itself, I'd put it in B tier. It's healthier than most, but consequentially, the taste is not quite as high as the higher ones, which are more unhealthy. So yeah, I'm putting Freshie in B tier. KFC, B tier, it's very inconsistent. I find sometimes KFC can be amazing, sometimes it can be shit. It really depends where you go. I think it's better down south, but even in Canada, I've had varying experiences. So overall, I'm putting it in B tier. Like at its best, it can be at its best, it can be S tier, but at its worst, it can be like F tier. So I'm gonna put it in B tier overall. It's just very inconsistent, I find. Yeah. Pizza Hut is B tier. I remember as a kid, Pizza Hut was amazing. But honestly, it's gone downhill over time. It just feels like they've sacrificed. It's not even quality for quantity because they always had quantity, but I feel like they just let the quality of the ingredients slide for the sake of profits. So, yeah, Pizza Hut, it still tastes decent, but it's just not as good as it used to be. So I'm putting it as B tier. Wendy's, the burgers there kind of taste in between what I define as like what an actual burger tastes like and what a like, you know, goy slop fast food burger tastes like. There's a right in the middle in terms of how they taste. So that gets B tier. Like it sort of tastes like an actual burger, but it sort of tastes like a goy slop burger. So yeah, Wendy's gets B tier. Hardee's / Carl's Jr., which are two different names for the same thing in the United States. I don't know why it has two different names. There's probably some story behind that. I'd say their burgers are good, but not great. So I would put them in B tier. I put them a bit above Wendy's, but still in a high B tier. Leaning toward A tier, but yeah, high B tier. Sonic, same story. Exact same as what I said for Hardee's and Carl's Jr. High B tier. Panda Express. I mean, their food tastes like typical Chinese food. Not amazing, not terrible. So I'd put it as a high B tier. Denny's, yeah, kind of generic breakfast food. High B tier. Not amazing, but not terrible either. Sorry, one sec. Now, okay, on to C tier, McDonald's. For some reason, McDonald's is often ranked as S tier or A tier in the other videos of this sort that I've come across on YouTube. I don't know why. I think their main burgers actually taste like shit, like the Big Mac and the Quarter Pounder actually like suck. The only reason McDonald's isn't lower is because of their double cheeseburgers, which do admittedly taste pretty good. Although they taste like goy slop, like they don't taste like real burgers. but they do still taste good in an addictive way. It's kind of like, it makes you feel good, but in the same way as like porn or cigarette smoking, where it's like it gives you a certain rush, but then you feel shitty afterward. Or like watching Rick and Morty. That's kind of the feeling I get from eating the double cheeseburgers, but it does give that rush. So I guess credit where credit's due. But their bigger burgers, which are their main thing, the Big Mac and the Quarter Pounder, I think taste like ass. I don't think they're very good at all. They taste like fucking cardboard. Like they don't even taste like real meat. And I mean, even in the double cheeseburger, it doesn't taste like real meat, but I think the fact that it's smaller for whatever reason makes it better. Like for whatever reason, McDonald's specific brand of Goy Slop tastes better on a smaller scale than on a bigger scale, like on a bite size as opposed to like a bigger burger size. So maybe that's a lesson regarding Goy Slop food, is that it tastes better when it's smaller, because I guess when it's bigger, you can really taste the lack of like true meaty flavor more. But yeah, I mean, the double cheeseburger and the Quarter Pounder are like almost the same thing at a bigger scale and yet at a smaller scale, but yet for some reason the Quarter Pounder tastes a lot worse. So yeah, I mean, and the other thing is like the double cheeseburger, it's practically like a secret menu item. Like it's barely even mentioned on their menu. So it's almost like something you have to be like in the know about, or it's like it's probably on the menu, but it's not highlighted very much. So yeah. But overall, taste-wise, I'm putting McDonald's as C tier. Taco Bell C tier. It definitely tastes like Goy Slop. It doesn't taste like real Mexican food. But I guess even Goy Slop Mexican food is still tolerable. It still tastes kind of good, but in a shitty way. So, Taco Bell gets C tier for that reason. Tim Hortons. As a Canadian, I'm supposed to love Tim Hortons. Well, guess what? I don't. Their quality, I feel, has declined over the years. And frankly, their desserts are better than their actual food. So yeah, Tim Hortons gets C tier. But even their donuts, I think they're good, but they're not as good as they used to be. They're okay. Like, some of them are okay. Like, I don't know. I feel like they used to be better. Little Caesars gets C tier. It tastes like Goy Slop pizza, but at the same time, it does taste kind of good in that way. Sort of like, as I said, the McDonald's double cheeseburgers or Taco Bell, where it's like, it doesn't taste like real food. It doesn't give you that like real sense of satisfaction, but it tastes all right in that kind of way, but not great. So like, yeah, Little Caesars, I'll give C tier. Papa John's I've only had a few times. Forgettable pizza, but I guess was decent, so I'll put it in C tier. Chick-fil-A, they do what I like to call Christ washing, where it's like they appeal to the Christian consumer base or the conservative consumer base through their politics, but their product isn't actually that amazing. So, I mean, their chicken sandwiches I think are decent, but not great. So I'm putting them in C tier. Like, and also they're overrated. Like their lineups are ridiculously fucking long. And it's like, I'm questioning, like, do people actually think their sandwiches are that good? Or is it that they want to support one of the very few mega corporations that exist today that on some level maybe supports some conservative values? But even then they're inconsistent about it. So yeah, is that the reason why they're so popular? I don't know, but I'm gonna call it Christ washing or red washing, like red for Republican states or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's so weird how red is the Republican color and also the communist color, but yeah, I digress. Yeah, Christ washing is something that Chick-fil-A does to promote their product. But yeah, overall it's C tier. Long John Silver's, a lot of people put this as F tier. I thought it was all right. Like, I've heard it's very unhealthy, but it's like the fact that it's a fast food seafood place is at least kind of unique. Funny story. The only one time I went to Long John Silver's, there was a guy who was there, one of the customers, who had an actual peg leg, like Long John Silver. And I was tripping out because I'm like, is this guy just a customer or is he like a mascot of the store? But no, he was actually just a customer. And it was good that I didn't say anything because that could have been a very awkward and embarrassing moment if I'd gone up and spoken to him and asked if he was a mascot of the store. Because I was genuinely thought he was. Because it's like you don't every day see someone with an actual peg leg. Like, okay, like you have people with like missing limbs who have artificial limbs, but they're usually not like a literal peg leg like Long John Silver. But no, this guy had a literal peg leg. And he looked like kind of like a sea captain too. Like he had that appearance with like the white beard and everything. Very, very bizarre happening. Like the very, very bizarre little story there. But yeah, that was my one experience with Long John Silver's. Whataburger, C tier. A lot of Texans and Southerners think that Whataburger is the greatest thing ever. I don't. I thought their burgers were kind of okay, but not great. So I'm putting them in C tier. Okay, now on to D tier, Subway. Now Subway is a bit healthier than some things, although it's not that healthy. But taste-wise, it's all right. Nothing amazing. I'm putting it in D tier. Actually, to be honest, it'd probably be more like C tier. But yeah, it's iffy. High D or low C, I don't know. Like, taste-wise, it's, I'm putting it in D tier actually because you know why? It tastes all right, but it doesn't taste just even like McDonald's tastes better in like a goy slop kind of way. Even if Subway's marginally healthier, you know what? I'm ranking it on taste here strictly. So if I'm being totally honest, taste-wise, I'm putting it in D tier. Domino's, D tier. It's just such mediocre pizza. Like I know there's a saying like that sex is like pizza. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's still pretty good. I guess that sort of applies to Domino's, but it's not great pizza. I'm putting it in D tier. Like high D, low C, I don't know. Again, like Dunkin'. Anyway, Dunkin's the next one. I think their donuts, they always seem to be stale. They're like a shittier version of Tim Hortons. I'm putting them in D tier. Jack in the Box, I don't know. I had it only once and it wasn't very memorable. I don't think it was very good, so I'm putting it in D tier. Harvey's, not to be confused with Hardee's. Harvey's is a major burger chain in Canada. It's all over the place in Canada, but it just doesn't really exist in the US at all, I don't think. Their burgers are actually really fucking like lame. Like they're just not very good burgers. Their poutine is actually decent. That's the only thing that saves them from being lower, but burger-wise, they're not very great. And they're very overrated. Like a lot of Canadians love Harvey's and swear by it as like some place that makes amazing burgers, but I don't think so. I think it's actually pretty like crappy. So I'm putting it in D tier. Okay, so now for F tier. In F tier, Burger King. Honestly, Burger King sucks. Their burgers are shit. How the hell is Burger King so popular, like worldwide? I never understood it. Their burgers fucking suck. I haven't had their new chicken sandwich. I don't think they have that in Canada. I think that's only in the US. But I've had their burgers, Whopper Jr. They're just not good burgers. Like they just kind of suck. They're like barely above like high school cafeteria burgers. I do not get how Burger King ever got so big. Like at least McDonald's double cheeseburgers taste good in like a kind of fake overprocessed fast food way where they don't taste like real meat, but they at least taste good for what they are, I guess. Burger King, you can't even say that about. So they're not even like the B grade McDonald's, which is kind of what they aspire to be. They're more like the D grade or F grade, actually, F tier. Yeah, Burger King just sucks. Okay. Also, for similar reasons, Dairy Queen. Now it's weird. The restaurant's called Dairy Queen, but they also serve burgers. I haven't had their ice cream or anything else, so I'm just going off the burgers. Their burgers suck too. Maybe even worse than Burger King's. So yeah, F tier. Arby's. I don't know. Some people really like Arby's. I don't. I just think they're kind of not great. So I'm not the biggest fan of roast beef sandwiches in general, but I will say I've definitely had better than Arby's. But again, it goes without saying that like often the best food you'll have is at local restaurants. So of course I've had better roast beef sandwiches at local restaurants, but overall I'm just not a huge roast beef guy. Uh Now I hope nobody takes that statement the wrong way. But yes, I'm not a big roast beef guy. Now in A tier, I'm putting Starbucks. Now keep in mind, a lot of these I'm going off like what are the biggest franchises worldwide, which is why I'm including them. Starbucks, I don't know, they're not really a food restaurant, but they end up on all these lists. Fucking NA. Like, I don't know how I can compare them taste wise when it's like it's not a like I guess their baked goods are all right, but I guess I put it in like B tier for their baked goods. But meh, they're not really a place people go to eat. They're more a place people go to get coffee. So I overall put them in NA tier, not applicable. Okay, so now getting on to the actually more important part of the video, which is my rankings in terms of not the taste, but how I view the company overall, in terms of how evil they are. So let's start with the least evil. Okay, so I'm not putting it at 8S to F. I have different tiers here, so I will say what they are. Okay, great tier is Freshie. Now, as I said, Freshie's a Canadian company. Their food is much healthier. Like some of their stuff is like fairly like actually healthy, like especially their market wrap. It's my go-to if I'm going out and if they have a Freshie there and I want something healthy. They're the most like reliable thing to eat in terms of something that's like actually decently healthy, especially the market wrap. And I respect that fact because it's like it's nice to have a place that exists in many different locations but also has food that is like actually somewhat healthy. And I respect that because they seem to be the only place that's doing that on a massive scale. And when I say healthy, I mean like actually healthy, not like in quotes healthy, like Subway. And again, nothing like to be honest, restaurant food inherently is somewhat unhealthy because there always have to be certain like preservatives or whatever, which drag down the health quality compared to something you prepare yourself. But as far as restaurant food goes, I think some of the stuff at Freshie is about as healthy as it gets. Plus, it tastes decent. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in great tier in terms of how evil they are. I think they're the least evil chain that I know of. Of course, they're also not doing terribly well as far as I know. Like, I've seen some locations close, like they were expanding a lot, but then they kind of stopped. So I don't know how well they're doing. I feel like they cater to a very specific demographic, which is largely like people on lunch breaks, like white collar office workers. But with the rise of remote work, I feel like that's hurting them. And to be fair, I did largely eat Freshie in that context, although not exclusively in that context. But yeah, they're great if you want something that's like decently healthy, but you don't want to like have to cook yourself. They're actually pretty good for that purpose. So yeah, I'm putting them in great tier. Good tier, I am putting all for similar reasons: In-N-Out, Culver's, Freddy's, and Fatburger, because they're not healthy, obviously, but they do taste like actual fucking burgers. And also because none of these are super aggressively expansionist, which is something that I think makes the companies more evil if they're just aggressively expansionist and they're trying to like crush every small business in sight. Again, like all chain restaurants do this to some extent. It's part of the nature of the game, which is why I keep saying it's always just better to eat at local restaurants. But nonetheless, I feel like these ones are less aggressively expansionist than the others. They at least keep entirely to the United States and in many cases to certain regions of the US. I think Fatburger has expanded a little bit outside the US, but not too much. So yeah, I'm putting those in good tier because A, they have high quality food, even though it's not the healthiest, and B, they're not aggressively expansionist. So yeah, In-N-Out, Culver's, Freddy's, and Fatburger, all burger restaurants that for similar reasons are in good tier. Neutral tier, Baskin Robbins. Oh wait, I didn't even include Baskin Robbins for taste tier. Oh, that's because I don't think I've ever eaten there. Okay, yeah, I feel no way. I feel very neutral about Baskin Robbins. They are what they are. Okay. Now, mixed but not neutral tier. What this means is like ones I have mixed feelings about in terms of how evil they are. Subway. Now, Subway, they're actually one of the worst in terms of being aggressively expansionist and trying to crush small businesses and just inserting themselves on every fucking corner of the planet. They're very aggressive. But what makes me put them a bit lower in terms of how evil they are is that some of their food is like it's not healthy, but it's less unhealthy than some things. So I have to give them a little bit of credit for that. So I'm putting them in mixed tier for that. Chipotle, I'm putting them in mixed tier because I think they do have really high quality food, but they are getting a bit more aggressive in their expansion tactics. So I do have to put them in mixed tier for that reason. Five Guys, as I mentioned before, their quality has become a bit less consistent, and they have become more aggressively expansionist across the world. So yeah, I'm putting them in mixed tier. Shake Shack, again, similar reasons. Aggressively expansionist in the US, but also apparently less consistent quality than before. So yeah, mixed. Popeyes, high quality, but yes, fairly aggressively expansionist. So yeah, mixed here. Krispy Kreme, probably. Oh yeah, I didn't put Krispy Kreme in the previous one. Okay, they would actually be quality wise. I put them as S tier. And yeah, okay, Krispy Kreme mixed because very delicious, but it's probably like literally the least healthy thing you could possibly eat. That being said, I have this bizarre theory that sometimes it's actually like stuff that's really unhealthy can be less bad for you because it satisfies a certain craving and you don't feel the need to constantly go back. Whereas stuff that's kind of like mediocre can be worse for your health, because mediocre but addictive, because it makes you keep coming back because it doesn't ever feel satisfying. It's kind of like porn or cigarettes or whatever. Like I'd really put McDonald's cheeseburgers as being in that category where it's like it's decent, but it tastes good but not amazing, but it's very addictive and it's not satisfying. Whereas Krispy Kreme donuts, I actually find are a bit more like satisfying. It's like it's so unhealthy, but it's like once you've had one or two, you feel like okay, I can go a while without having any more of these. It satisfied my craving. So bizarrely, by being less healthy, it could be more healthy. Again, like my reasoning there could be flawed, but that's my reasoning. So yeah, Krispy Kreme I'm putting mixed tier in this regard. Let's see what else. Hardee's / Carl's Jr. Yeah, same thing. Like as some of the others I've mentioned in this tier, like the quality is not bad, but they are fairly aggressive. At least in the United States, not so much in other countries. But yeah, Sonic. Yeah, same thinking. Chick-fil-A, again mixed because they're pretty aggressive in their food. I think it's a bit overrated. But that being said, the fact that they've been one of the few mega corporations to stand up to some extent for certain conservative values and that they're not total shit libs means that I have to give them a little bit of credit for that. So they go in mixed tier. Panda Express, mixed tier. They have, yeah, I mean, it's basically like decent tier Chinese food, nothing great, nothing terrible. Somewhat aggressively expansionist, but not too much. But like all fast food chains are to some extent aggressively expansionist, but I mean like by the standards of these chains. So yeah, mixed here. Church's Chicken, yeah. Again, not too much. I like some of these. I should just kind of breeze through. Like mixed here in this regard. Yeah, Church's Chicken, Denny's, Long John Silver's, Whataburger. Again, they're all like, you know, like they're not that aggressively expansionist, but somewhat. And their food quality ranges from good to like meh. So yeah, mixed tier. Okay, now into the bad tier. KFC, because they are one of the most aggressively expansionist in the world. But their food sometimes is pretty good, so like sometimes does taste like actual food rather than goy slop, but it varies from one location to the other. So yeah, bad tier. Wendy's bad tier. You know what? I feel like for these I don't need to explain it as much. So basically, okay, when I'm putting in bad tier for here, it's just like based on how aggressively expansionist they are combined with their food quality. I've already kind of gone over the food quality in the previous listings, so I'll just kind of list them off without explaining each one unless there's something significant. Wendy's, Pizza Hut. So in bad tier, yeah, like KFC, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Tim Hortons. Now Tim Hortons, again, Canadians swear by it, but I don't give a fuck. You know what? They do all the same bad shit a lot of American fast food companies do. I'm not defending them because they're Canadian. Fuck it. They get bad tier. A&W. Did I have A&W in the other list? Okay, no I didn't. I forgot. Okay, A&W quality wise, I'm putting as C tier. But yeah, ethical wise, I'm putting them as bad tier. Uh Dunkin', yeah, Taco Bell, Little Caesars, Papa John's, Arby's, Jack in the Box, all bad tier. Um, so I guess if you're gonna like translate them to numbers, okay, great tier would be like S tier, good tier would be A tier, neutral tier C, neutral or mixed but not neutral would be like B or C tier. Then bad tier would be D tier, and then what I have next is Satan tier, which would basically be F tier. So yeah, um, I had like yeah Arby's and Jack in the Box for D tier or bad tier for the ethics of the company. So now for F tier or Satan tier, as I call it, for the ethics of the company. McDonald's. McDonald's is the prototypical evil fast food chain. They expand aggressively. They try to crush local businesses everywhere. They insert themselves in every fucking country, in every fucking town. There's nothing more triggering than when you're in a historic centuries old town in Italy and there's a McDonald's there that's just inserting themselves into the community, undermining the local restaurants and brainwashing the fucking youth. And they're always full of teenagers, especially in Europe. And they always blare like shit tier American music, like pop and rap and everything. It just feels like they're trying to like brainwash teens into like globalism and renouncing their culture. And it's just they're fucking Satan tier, yeah. Like they're the most aggressively expansionist company out there and the worst in terms of like promoting globalist values. And frankly, their food's not amazing either. So yeah, McDonald's is the archetypical Satan tier in terms of ethics. Burger King, for similar reasons, they're a less successful version of McDonald's. Dairy Queen also for similar reasons. And all these companies, again, like they're not just in the United States, but they're across the globe. And that's partly why I'm putting them in Satan tier or F tier for ethics, because they feel the need not only to corrupt US and Canada, but also to like aggressively insert themselves into places like Europe, for instance. So yeah, Starbucks, for similar reasons. Now Starbucks, what I don't like about Starbucks is that they specifically tend to target like walkable areas, historic areas, gentrified areas, like areas that have like kind of a more urban vibe, although they do target suburban areas also. But I find like they really specifically target like walkable urban areas, and they really like to undermine local establishments of that sort, which add character to the community. And Starbucks, it kind of like tries to imitate that, but it imitates it in a very corporatized, fake way. And I just don't like that. I don't like it. It's kind of like Starbucks is to like the local cafe what Disney World is to like historic German or French architecture, is that it takes it and it really, really corporatizes it and makes it fake. And I really don't like that. So yeah, Starbucks gets F tier or Satan tier for that reason. And plus, they're an aggressively Zionist company, so there's that too. Domino's, because again, they do this for pizza. They're very aggressively expansionist, and they do insert themselves not only in the US and Canada, but across the globe. And their pizza's just not that great. So yeah, they get Satan tier. And finally, Harvey's. They may only be in Canada, but they're very aggressive and expansionist within Canada. And their food's not that great either. So yeah, I'm putting them in Satan tier. Fuck Harvey's. So yeah, that's my opinion of all the different restaurants. And by the way, in case any of these companies try to get me for they take this down for like slander or what have you, I'm not slandering anyone because all I'm stating here is my personal opinions. Uh, and the things like, okay, Starbucks supports Zionism, that's just a fact. But like saying something like, oh, this is shit, this is good, whatever, these guys are evil. These are all subjective personal opinions, so I don't think there's any way this could be considered slander because it's based on what, in my opinion, is evil or what, in my opinion, is shit. Like, it would be slander to say that, like, if I said, like, X company puts the blood of virgins into their food, that they perform human sacrifice and put the blood of virgins in their food, that would be slander. Or saying that like they're putting rat poison in their food, that would be slander, but that's not what I'm saying here. So hopefully I haven't broken any laws in making this video, but yeah, that's my opinions on the different chains. But again, as I keep reiterating, it's always best to support local restaurants. So yeah.